if necessary. But I want to be clear with the people of Maui about what to expect. The work we're doing is going to take time, in some cases a long time. We're going to do it in a way to make sure we're respectful to the wishes and the traditions of the people of Hawaii as well. The process of removing hazardous material and cleaning the environmental damage means folks can't get back in the area right away. The start of school has been disrupted. It's painful. I get it. But what can I tell you? The one thing I can tell you is that we're going to be with you every step of the way. We're not walking away. When Jill and I visited, we were struck by the absolute courage of the people there. People who lost loved ones, lost everything. People are just trying to find out whether the ones they lost. Are they gone? Are they dead? Are they missing? Or are they just not accountable? Where are they? They've lost everything. Everywhere we turned, we saw and felt the aloha spirit. Neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, I know this sounds kind of corny, but it's true. It's true. Everybody's reaching out, trying to help the other guy. Turning pain into purpose and keeping the faith. I've directed my administration to continue working with urgency and focus to help the people of Maui on their journey of recovery and healing. And we're going to make sure you are healed and you're in better shape than before. I said when I was on the island last week, we're not leaving until the job's done. And we'll be there as long as it takes. I know there's a lot of questions you probably have. I'll take a few, but I have a cabinet meeting coming up right away. Yes.
Mr. President, can you assure Americans that the federal government is going to have the emergency funding that they need to get through this hurricane season?
The answer is, if I can't do that, I'm going to point out why. How can we not respond? My God, how can we not respond to these needs? And so I'm confident, even though there's a lot of talk from some of our friends up in the Hill about the cost, we got to do it. This is the United States of America. Yes.
Mr. President, Governor DeSantis is also running for president. You are running for re-election. Do you sense any politics in your conversations with him about this issue?
No, believe it or not. I know that sounds strange, especially how the nature of politics today. But, you know, I was down there when the last major storm. I spent a lot of time with him, walking from village to from community to community, making sure he had what he needed to get it done. I think he trusts my judgment and my desire to help, and I trust him to be able to suggest that this is not about politics, it's about taking care of the people of the state.
Mr. President, on the hurricane, in your conversations with the governors, is there anything that you've heard from them that gives you pause? Things that you think need to be there that are not quite there yet? And secondly, are you making any contingency plans on your own schedule, either with this Labor Day, with your own personal travels, and also for your international travels that are coming up next week, that are you going to need to reshuffle things?
Well, I may, I just don't know yet. And first of all, each of the governors seem to be focused. And I think what's changing, particularly the governors from North South Carolina as well as Georgia, is there wasn't an anticipation that it'd be moving up the coast. They were hopeful, and initially it looked like it was going to go further east and not affect them. So I think they're all in the process of rapidly focusing on what may happen, what may not happen, and what I hope the people of those states listen to is the warnings when they come from a lot of it, they may not see 130-mile-an-hour winds coming through, but guess what? You may also be on the shore and low-lying area and have a 8-foot surge of wind surge coming from off the ocean. But they've all been through it. The guy furthest north, Governor Cooper, is really focused on it. I mean, they all are. I don't mean to pick, but I mean, he is the least likely to have the most impact occurring on his shores. But it's a lot of low-lying country. I was joking with him. I mean, my state is, when you have anything like a hurricane in my state, in Delaware and suburban and the eastern shore of Maryland, we're 3 feet above sea level, man. You worry about what those surges do. And that's the same thing still happening in in Florida, because you're talking about the high tide, low tide, adding 3 feet and so on. So I found them all to be laser focused on what their needs were, and I asked them, but I think they're reassured that we're going to be there for whatever they need, including search and rescue off the shore of the Coast Guard and Coast Guard helicopters and the like.
Mr. President. Mr. President, I have a question for you about, we talked a lot about power lines and having stronger poles. I was curious, some power companies have talked about potentially shutting off power when there's sort of high wind incidences for vast parts of the country. And I'm wondering if you think this is sort of an appropriate response by power companies, or if you think that they should be working to sort of harden their infrastructure more than just ending power when there's a...
I think both. Look, it's very expensive to secure these power lines, both in terms of the actual structure. You know, we look out there and you see these large towers carrying multiple wires, and the wires are like that thick, and they're carrying an awful lot of energy, and sometimes those entire towers come down. I am not expert enough to know when it's appropriate to shut down that line. And that's one of the reasons why I think having the technology to have these meters on each of these facilities tells you where the danger is. So I can picture, I'm getting beyond my expertise here, but...
You're talking about huge numbers of Americans suddenly not having power because the company makes a determination that...
Well, but by the way, we also know how many huge number of Americans have died, how many huge number of Americans have, for example, more forest has been burned to the ground since I've become, in the time I've been doing this, than the entire square miles of the state of Maryland. Imagine the entire state of Maryland burning to the ground. That's how much is already burned to the ground. So I think as we try to harden the capacity to transmit energy, it's not irrational to make a judgment that you may have to, in a certain circumstance, shut off the power. I just don't know enough to know the detail of how to do that. I mean, where that decision is made. That's why we're starting off. I was talking with Sherwood Randall, who handles this for me, about the need to put these meters along these so we know where the power is going down. You may be able to shut off parts. I just don't know enough to know that.
Mr. President, are you concerned at all that a potential government shutdown would impact the recovery efforts? And what is your reaction to House Republicans who say that they're launching an investigation into the federal response in Maui?
Well, I welcome a federal response in Maui. I think that they should go out and talk to every elected official, from the mayors to the governors to the United States senators to the congresspersons. I welcome, and once they go out and see it, then I'm sure they'll provide the money. Thank you all very much.
Any concerns about your friend Mitch McConnell's health?
By the way, I just heard, literally coming out, and Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. We always, I know people don't believe that's the case, but we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend, and so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough to know.
Do you think he's
Thank
fit
you.
to serve and should run for re-election?